The better adapted an animal is to its environment, the more likely it is to survive and reproduce. Bodo dolphin use echolocation, which they inherited from their ocean ancestors. But to navigate the dark, tangled rivers they live in, they've developed movable vertebrae that allow their heads to twist in many directions. In the Namibian viper and North American sidewinder, we see how two completely different species on completely separate continents have solved the need to cross hot sand in the same way. Twice a day, tidal waters leave the mudskipper fish high and dry. It's evolved special skin to absorb oxygen from the air and keeps its gills wet with a mouthful of water. The blue shark adapted to its ocean environment 350 million years ago and has changed little since. With eyes that reflect light for nocturnal feeding, a cute smell and taste that scents injured fish miles away, and pores that detect the electricity generated by living creatures, they are the perfect predator. When is a leaf not a leaf? When it's a hungry pipitoad. When is a worm not a worm? When it's the tail of a Cantil viper. And this frog is about to discover animals use all sorts of tricks to deceive one another. Bright colors are a warning sign in nature. A coral snake advertises its deadly venom with its markings. By mimicking those colors, a harmless milk snake can glide through life feared and protected. The stripes of a young zebra allow it to blend into the herd, camouflaging it from nearby lions. Predators use camouflage too. A 21-foot crocodile is invisible in only 2 feet of water. When the wildebeest notice, it's already too late. But even the best camouflage can fail, and then the chase is on. Words are not the only way to communicate. Sight, smell, sound, and touch are some of the ways animals get their messages across. A male woolly monkey uses body language to claim his territory, while the rest of his group huddle in a non-verbal social greeting. Howler monkeys turn up the volume to warn off trespassers and avoid bloody confrontations. Smell is the sense that establishes order in the life of the Thomson gazelle. A male must constantly mark his territory with urine and dung. Each killer whale pod sings songs in its own dialect to identify kinship. The male umbrella bird's haunting call and plumage display are designed to attract females, while a pin-tailed whydah relies on an impressive aerial ballet. The distinctive sound of a rattlesnake clearly says, "Don't tread on me." Throughout their lives, animals must compete for food, territory, and mates. What looks like fighting to us is the wolf's way of debating who will lead and who will follow. The right to mate is decided in contests like this, ensuring only the strongest red deer will pass on his genes. Honduran milk snakes compete for females the best way they can, by wrestling. In puffin colonies, it's limited nesting space that must be fiercely defended. These conflicts that arise within a species rarely result in death. Competition for limited resources also causes confrontation between species, especially when they all want the same food. Animals have solved many of their trickiest problems by working together. One lion could not hope to make a meal of this buffalo calf. But But by hunting in groups, lions can use a strategy of divide and conquer. One lioness distracts the mother, while another moves in for the kill. These humpback whales herded a school of fish into a circle. Now they just have to rise up amongst them open-mouthed for a great meal. Female giraffe share daycare duties. Each mother will take a turn guarding over the herd's young during the midday nap. Thousands of flamingo chicks decrease their vulnerability to predators by bonding together in one mass organism. There is no way around the crocodile-infested waters of East Africa. The wildebeest also seek safety in numbers to survive their crossing. Sometimes different species will work together for mutual gain. The oxpecker's ability to eat 7,000 ticks a day gives it entree to the most exclusive spots on the Serengeti. The reward for surviving the harshest environments is not having to compete with many other species for food, water, or territory. Polar bears hunt the Arctic protected and camouflaged by their thick white coats. Their cubs are born deep in snow dens, emerging only when they've developed enough fur and fat to stand the frozen conditions. When food is scarce, Arctic fox follow polar bears to scavenge any leftovers from their seal hunts. The South Pole is the coldest place on Earth. Only the emperor penguin can survive its winter. With thick blubber and 4 layers of waterproof feathers, they will actually overheat if the temperatures rise above freezing. Camels live in the world's hottest, driest lands. Their humps store fat for energy, and while their eyes and ears shut out blowing sand and keep in moisture, their feet spread out to keep them from sinking into the dunes. How does a frog survive in a desert? By digging down under it. An Australian burrowing frog, still moist under a protective layer of skin, will remain inactive till the next rainy season, a wait that can last several years in a bad drought. Yak graze alone in the high Himalaya. The thin air at 20,000 feet is no problem for the large heart and lungs of the world's highest living mammal. From the moment animals are born, they must eat or die, and they will spend much of the rest of their lives hunting, grazing, or scavenging. Keen eyesight and acrobatics enable the arowana fish to hunt for its prey both in and above the Amazon. Swans like vegetation, and with a neck more complex than a giraffe's, they can graze well below the water's surface. Elephants eat more than any other land animal. Throughout their lives, they will grow 6 sets of teeth to help them grind over 400 pounds of plant food each day. Some animals use tools to get at hard-to-reach prey. For chimps, a blade of grass is the perfect probe for tasty termites. Another method of finding food is eating what others leave behind, or stealing it, which is why leopards must go out of their way to keep the food they've caught. In the realm of animal architecture, form follows function. Borneo's orangutans are easily satisfied with the makeshift sleeping platforms they design each evening. While the Vitelline weaver bird goes to great lengths, 300 feet of elephant grass in fact, to create a nest that will both attract a female and protect his young. Cougars spend more time looking for safe homes than creating them. This mother will move her cubs every 2 to 3 days to new dens to avoid predators. Beavers find safety in their sturdy lodges fortified with logs, limbs, and mud, and protected by secret underwater entrances. A hollow palm tree keeps blue and yellow macaw chicks safe and dry during the Amazon rainy season. But wherever they are, animals make themselves at home, even if it's in yours. The physical prowess of the animal world is most celebrated in the complexity and beauty of locomotion. The Thompson gazelle achieves speeds of 40 miles an hour, easily outrunning its predators. except the cheetah, who at 70 miles an hour is the fastest land mammal. Fastest is not always best. Swimming, this sloth is moving at top speed. In the tree, its speed will drop to 15 feet a minute. This slow pace uses little energy and requires small amounts of food. Moving through trees comes a lot easier to the athletic black Wakari monkey. Kangaroo use all 4 feet only when they're not in a hurry. When they do need to move out, they let their hind legs do all the work. Humans have always envied birds their power of flight, and power is exactly what muscular swans use to pump their long, broad wings in a constant flapping motion. Birds of prey, lacking this strength, cover great distances by soaring on air currents. With a wind beat of 170 times per second, the hummingbird is considered by many the greatest aviator in the world. It's the only bird with stiff wings that flip over with every beat, and the only bird that can fly backwards. Every species has a different method of bearing and raising its offspring. In mass spawning, capelin released billions of unprotected eggs to be sure that some will survive to reproduce. As many as 100 perfectly formed pupa toads will burst from the back of their mother. Some will make it, some won't, but her job is done. Birds and mammals have fewer babies and therefore must spend much more effort protecting and nurturing them. Marsupial babies are born before they're fully developed and stay in their mother's pouches until they can get around on their own. Some species not only feed and care for their young, but they must also teach them. This father knows what starts out as play ends up as predation. The largest mammals give birth to only one baby at a time. It will take this herd of females a whole decade to tutor a calf to maturity.